Okay, my friends, here we are again, part two. Isn't this looking lovely? I'm quite happy with this. I'm going to continue on now and do the ocean. Nice and relatively simple. But let's try and create a little bit of drama. Just in the waves here. What do you think? Shall we try? I'm very happy with it so far. I love that sun. That's just very rough with the palette knife. I'm happy. Let's go. I have my same colours, my same palette. Nothing has changed. I have fresh thinners, so I'm just going to dampen my brush. Actually, do you know what I will do? Let's pop a little bit of linseed oil just over the ocean. You can use liquid clear if you like. It's absolutely fine. But I like to use just linseed oil on its own. It just gives the surface a nice little bit of an oil, but it's not too wet. You understand what I mean by that? It's just nice. There's a little bit of a drag still on the canvas with the linseed oil. But I think this will help us go along much quicker. Because sometimes when you don't use this on a big canvas, it takes forever to put paint on. I'm going into my big brush. And let's have a look at the picture. Okay, it's a nice bluey mauve, a nice warm blue. Let's create a nice warm blue. Take some phaylo blue. And we'll take some sienna, or sorry, not sienna, magenta. Now let me just take a look at this first. Let's see. Now that's far too blue, I think. You may think it looks okay, but I think it's far too blue. And a little touch of white, I would say, as well. And a bit more magenta. There, I'm quite happy with that. Okay, let's just go along and cut up into that horizon. We'll try and get this as straight as possible. Just take your time. Nice and slowly. Okay, I'll take more thinners and I'll go with more magenta as well. Another touch of white. As it comes across to the middle, it's going to get much warmer. So there's a lot more pink in the mix as it comes across, okay? A lot more. I'm just taking touches of thinners now, just to thin this out ever so slightly. Now let's have a look. Let's try and get a nice straight line across here. You can use kind of a stick or something to go across here if you want. But I am working wet into wet with all of this. This is all still wet. It's only just been finished. So I'm just being careful. Now, more thinners again. More magenta, a bit of the blue. And again, across here. So it's just going to be basically, I'm going to just draw, if I have a pencil now, I'm going to draw just the water where it kind of breaks in on the beach. I'm just going to go around like that, just give it a little bit of a wiggle as it goes along. And let's continue filling this in. Now, magenta, a little bit of blue, a little bit of white, just to thicken it up. The white is really only just to thicken the paint up. That's all, okay? I generally put on a thin layer like this and then I work thicker colours into it. It's just to cover the whiteness of the canvas, that's all. That's all I'm doing, covering the white. Okay, cut across here again. Nice and carefully. And let's fill that in. Right down to my sand. So I have a nice base, done. I can now start adding my colours into this. That's a nice soft colour now, isn't it? I think I go to my smaller brush, slightly smaller flat brush. And okay, let's take a look. Let's just start adding colours to this. Let's get lots of magenta. and a touch of sienna. I'm going to pop that in. You know where the sun meets the ocean? I'm just going to pop that in that area, just there, okay? Right down all the way. So it's going to be slightly warmer in the center of your painting. Slightly warmer. Give it a little bit of warmth. There we go. I just need to get more magenta from my palette. I hope you can see everything okay now. There we go. Now, magenta. And I'll go with some phaylo blue. So getting much richer as well. And I'm going to start going more rich on this side as well. Just bringing that slightly thicker colour. You see the way now this sits on top of that much better because I'm using slightly thicker paint over the thinner mix. So you can see it's just covering much better, isn't it? And just wiggle it side to side. There we go. Nice and easy. And I'm also going to go slightly darker up here as well on the right hand side. So more phaylo, more magenta. And let's come up here and just put a bit of dark colour. That's a bit blue now, isn't it? Take a little bit more magenta. I'll just cut across very gently, across my horizon, and then just, again, side to side, just hit and miss. You see what I mean? Hit and miss. I'm not covering it completely. And again, as we get to the centre, I'm going to pick up some magenta and some cadmium red. Let's try some of that. Let's just have a bit of fun. A nice warm reddish colour. Let's pop a little bit of that in here and there. And you can soften it outwards from the centre. Soften it across. Let's just add plenty of colour into this ocean. Okay. So you can kind of see now it's beginning to take shape already, isn't it? The next thing I want to do is add some real dark colours. So I'm going to create some little waves breaking, that kind of thing. So let's just get some phaylo blue with some magenta and a touch of black. Now you don't really have to have black in this either. You could just use magenta and phaylo blue, but a little bit of black is no harm. Let's just pop a few dark lines here and there, look. It's only just to suggest some bits of waves breaking, that kind of thing. A bit more pink in this, I think. Needs a bit more pink. And we get a nice thick one down here and leave it fizzle off, you see? Just leave it disappear off. Get one or two nice dark ones up here. And for me now, this really is just having fun. I'm not too pushed about getting the waves perfect and all of that. I'm just having fun getting some darks in here and there. That's all I'm doing. Have some fun, okay? Don't try and worry about making these absolutely perfect. It's just an impression. That's all this is. It's just a very loose impression of some waves breaking here and there. Okay, and come down here. I want to just flick that downwards and out. You see, just like that. Down and out, you see what I mean? And then soften the end of it away. That gives you a nice little impression of a wave breaking there, doesn't it? Do the same as one over here. Now I'll try some phaylo blue and a touch of black. Maybe just to get a little bit of a darker one here and there. As well. And pop a couple in here. So you'll get the idea. It's just popping little darks in here and there. That's all. because I will be putting some white on these as well later, and some oranges and all that kind of thing over a lot of this. So, how was that? Now I'm going to start lightening the centre. So let me just clean my brush very quickly, dip it in and soak it on that tissue. Get all that bluish colour out of the brush, because I like this brush. It's a nice soft brush. Some of my other brushes are going slightly hard, so it's difficult to use them for soft effects like this. So look, nice and clean again. I'm going to start putting a very lacy pinky colour in here. And I'm going to use magenta and some Naples yellow, okay? Grab some magenta, grab some Naples yellow, mix those two together, and we start with this nice kind of a soft pink look in here, just where the sun is coming down. And you could just soften it out of the way, either side. So we'll try that again, a bit more Naples yellow perhaps. And pop it in there just like that, look. At least then, that gives us a base to work our slightly lighter colours on later. Our kind of yellows and oranges and that kind of stuff. That gives us a nice base to work with. So I'm just going to pop that in there. Clean my brush again. And then, once my brush is clean, I'm going to go into some white with cadmium yellow and a little touch of magenta. And that'll give me a nice pasty colour then, you see. So I can now put my yellowy colours on top of this pink, knowing it's not going to go muddy and messy and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I always put a pink under first. So I start with the pink and I work in my yellows into that. So then you can see you're getting no muddy colours. It's just nice and light and soft. And maybe a little bit up here as well, just up at the horizon line. So already you can begin to see it taking shape. Now, I just turn my tissue here. I'll clean that brush again. Now what I'm going to do next is get another small flat brush, and I'm going to work in some real dark colours into some of these waves. So I'm going to take some phaylo blue and a little black. I want to get some real dark shades into the tips of those waves, okay? So for instance, let's have a look at this one here. I'm going to just bring some dark down and flick it across, like that. And make it up and down as well a little bit, look. And then I'm going to just kind of leave that disappear into the colour underneath. It's just, for me, it's just about making an impact in the painting. So, showing lots of nice darks against warm, lighter, warmer colours. Here, for instance, that's nice. You see the way that's nice and dark, and there's a nice contrast in that as well. Let's get a bit more of that. Phaylo blue and magenta. Nice rich dark colour. And work some in over here as well. And we'll have some here. Why not? Let's put a bit in. You could add some magenta to it as well. Give it a more pinky hue. And soften it down and kind of flick it outwards. That's the technique I like to do. It just gives a bit of movement in the water, don't you think? It adds a little bit of movement. Let's go again. Blue and magenta. And we could try one or two nice ones up right through that light area. Let's put one here. Okay, just like that. Don't be shy. I know you might be afraid in case you spoil the painting, but if you don't try it, you're never going to know how it looks. And you might regret not trying it afterwards. So just try it, and if you don't like it, you can just soften it back out with your blender brush and go back over it again. But I would say, don't be afraid to try it, okay? It's just paint. And that's how we learn. Sometimes I try things and I make huge mistakes and I ruin the entire painting. But at least I know the next time not to do it like that. Now, so there we go. We already have some nice waves breaking along there, don't we? The next job is to add some nice bright blues to complement these. So let's clean the brush again. Okay, pick up some phthalo blue and plenty of white. A nice rich blue, okay? Not a very whitey blue, a nice rich blue. And let's start adding some of this. Here and there, look. Just like that. I'm just flicking it around, I'm softening the wave into that, softening that up into the wave, and just doing lots of random swirls with my brush. It's just a very random effect. That's all I want to get, really. A random effect. And I think it works. Let's add a little bit over here. Look, we can put some little wiggly lines, that kind of thing. And it's really just to complement the sky. That's the only reason. So you can see it slowly kind of coming to life. And the nice thing I like about oils is that these colours will never fade. They will stay nice and rich and strong. If these were acrylics, you would find that the colours fade and they go very flat on the canvas. That's why I don't use acrylics. I have used acrylics for many years, but I've settled on oils because the colours, they just remain so vibrant. They really do. So I love them for that. Acrylics are great if you're working outdoors with painting. You know, they dry nice and quick. You can work fast and you can walk home with a dry painting. But the colours are very muted. So for that reason, I tend to stay away from acrylics for the most part. Now I'm just going to continue on, popping little bits of blue in here and there, look. Just keep going, adding little highlights, that's all they are, little highlights of water off in the distance, look. Nice little highlights. Then I'll go into some phthalo blue on its own and add a nice, maybe a nice rich phthalo blue look here and there. That's nice. It's just catching the highlights of the water, that's all. I'm staying away from the centre. That's the most important thing. Okay, I'll stop at that and I will take my soft blender brush. Just make sure it's relatively clean. And I'm going to just soften some of the brush strokes away. Just a little bit, just soften them off, just very gently. I'm just running my brush very lightly over some of these. You see, just to take the brush stroke away from them, so it's nice and soft then. And then we'll start putting on some highlights on the water, some little bits of splash and foam and all that kind of stuff, before we go to the centre and put in highlights. I mean, even that now as it is would look absolutely fine. It really would. It's up to you. It's completely up to you how far you wish to go with it. I'm just going to grab my palette knife now, make sure it's nice and clean. And let's see. Okay, let's grab some phthalo blue, little magenta, and plenty of white. Now I don't want to make these pure white, but I do want them to look like the highlights and the splash of the water. So a nice bit of white, but not too white. Let's try this and just take a look and see what it looks like. I'm just going to load up my palette knife and let's just go like that, look. Now, let's have a look and see what we think. Scrape it along. Add a bit of texture down here. And I might go along the end as well and go just like that, look. Just creating little the impression of little bits of splash, do you know what I mean? And little bits of stuff on top of the waves as well. I find that when doing this, the trick really is not to overdo it. It's very easy to go over the top with this and get carried away. It's about knowing, for me, when to stop, when you think enough is enough. But yeah, it's very difficult. It really is. I'm just popping a little bit here and there, just to create the impression of little foam and stuff like that on tops of the waves. I've been very sort of loose with the palette knife. It's a difficult technique to explain. I'm just letting the palette knife drag off the paint as I go. I'm leaving the canvas kind of drag the paint, if you know what I mean. It can be difficult to explain how to do this. I'm just sort of wiggling my palette knife around and allowing the canvas to just sort of drag it across, just to create a bit of texture on the water, really. That's all it is. Now I'll stop at that. I'm going to now do the sand, because once the sand is in, we can work with colours then, once the sand is in. I will just kind of soften a few of these down here and there. Look, just bring them down, soften them in. Some of them are okay, it's just the odd kind of one here and there. Just want to soften with the brush, create little swirls. Okay. Now, sand. Let's do the sand. Looking at the photograph, it's a nice warm brown. I'm going to start with sienna, Naples yellow. Okay. So burnt sienna, Naples yellow. I'll try a little touch of magenta. Let's take a look. I think more Naples yellow. I'm going to just fill that in with this colour. I'm not making it straight either. I'm just giving a little bit of a wiggle here and there. You'll notice I have lots of thinners in that colour. It's just to create, again, a base. Just to get the canvas covered. And we can work in darker colours on top of that. Let's go for more Naples yellow and more burnt sienna. Come over here and pop that in. Just wiggle it up there in between the water. Let's go again. More Naples yellow, more burnt sienna, and a nice bit of thinners. Just to thin that out slightly. You want a nice creamy consistency. Okay, now what I'm going to do is take some magenta, and there's a little bit of pink in this, look, a little bit of mauve colour. I'm going to start softening that through that brown, because that will complement the water and the sky. So a little bit of that pinky colour going through this is really going to help. Okay, then I'm going to take some white, some Naples yellow, and some magenta. Now you want this quite dark. I don't want too much white in this. And I'm going to just soften this kind of touch of pink just across here to create a little bit of light on the sand. All right, just a little bit of light, just kind of around the center, I suppose, as if the sunlight is kind of hitting the sand as well. I think you can kind of understand what I'm saying. Plenty of white, plenty of magenta. So we have a nice highlight kind of a colour, you see what I mean? The sun is really catching it. Then I might pick up some Naples yellow and pop some bright Naples yellow across there as well. All with the same brush, okay? So you can see we have a nice light section in the centre, don't we? I'll clean my brush once more and add some darker shades. Let's get some burnt sienna, a little touch of black. And a touch of magenta. So we have a nice darker shade. It's dull, it's not rich, it's a kind of a slightly darker shade. It's like a browny, sort of a grey type of a colour. I'm just going to pop that in here and there. And look, you can take your time at home with this now. You don't have to rush like I'm rushing here. I just like to work quickly. That's the way I am. I'm very spontaneous like that. I like to kind of do things quickly because it stops me from stopping and thinking too much. Does that make sense? I'm going to just soften it here very gently, just around by the water. So you see, you can even pull some of the watercolour down into that as well. Let's try a bit of black, and I might just bring a little bit of black. I'm mixing it on the canvas, the same colour, okay? You see I'm softening it through on the canvas. And I might even go up and soften it into the water here, just a little bit, because I'm going to then create some water breaking in on this sand. And I'll show you what I mean in just a moment. So you see now that that's all nice and soft. It's kind of disappearing off into the water. Okay. What I'm going to do then is grab my palette knife and let's try and create the impression of water breaking off just on the sand. Okay. I'll show you what I mean. So a little bit of pinky colour. I'm going to just go like this, look. You see that kind of effect? Do you know when that happens in the water, on the sand, you get these lovely little ripples on the sand. That's just what I'm doing, look. Just dragging the knife, wiggling the knife as I go. And I could go into some white as well, just some white on its own. I just want to make this a nice soft painting. I don't want to be putting, you know, lots of sharp details in the painting because we have a window frame to go around all of this as well. So we don't have to focus too much on the actual sunset. Does that make sense? Now I'm just going to take a bit of white and I'm just going to brighten some of these with some white. I'm just wiggling, you see that? That kind of wiggle effect. Last as well not last, I'm going to start pulling in with the palette knife all this kind of nice bright colour from the sun. Because we're forgetting about that, aren't we? Let's grab some cadmium yellow, my apologies. Let's grab some cadmium yellow, little cadmium red, make up a nice rich orange. Okay, you can use a brush for this as well if you like. And I'm just going to go up here and pop that lovely rich orange along the horizon line first. And I'm going to soften it downward. Just see the way I'm kind of flicking this and dragging it across the canvas. Here and there, like that. Try some cadmium red with a little magenta. I'm going for a nice pinky hue. Again, scraping left and right. And once I have that kind of colour in, then I can go into my yellow. Cadmium yellow with Naples yellow. Now I need to just clean my palette knife for a moment because I have some green on my knife and it's just not working. Cadmium yellow and some Naples yellow with a touch of red. Okay, nice bright colour. You can add a hint of white into it as well if you like. And let's just put this along in here. And I'm going to even scrape this along on the wall, on the sand as well. Look, scrape it along on the sand. I'll go up here and add some of it to that reflection up there. You see, I'm just kind of darting around. I'm just darting around on the canvas. And I'm not mixing it too much. That's the trick. Because if you start mixing this with your palette knife, it's going to mix with all those blues and purples and it's going to start getting muddy. So for me, the trick is just don't mix it too much. Now I'm going to drag this down like that, look. Just to create a nice light point. Just there. Okay, I'm going to mix a bit more of the orange. And I'm going to go in here just a little bit. I don't want to overdo this now. Then some cadmium yellow. Perhaps with some Naples yellow, just along here. Lots of thick paint, look at that. Then I'm going to take some white and I'm going to soften some white in just here, look. Just to show the spot of the sun, that very bright spot, okay? I'm just going to pop a little bit of white in just here and there. I want to really just capture that sunspot glistening on the sand. And I maybe throw a touch of white up here as well. Now, how is that, my friends? What do you think? I'm quite happy with that. I have to say, I'm quite happy with that. That's not bad at all. I won't overwork this because I'm afraid in case I ruin all of this and make a complete mess of it. So what I might do is add a little bit of detail along the beach. Shall we? Let's grab a small round brush and let's just add little bits of detail here and there. I grab a little filbert, look, I'll take some burnt sienna and some black. Maybe a touch of cadmium red, just to make a nice dark colour. And pop a few little suggestions of rocks here and there. Let's just pretend there's little rocks and stuff like that on the beach. Just little dabs, look. Some big, some small. As I said, it's only just to suggest a little bit of detail on the beach, nothing else. Any brush you have will do fine. It's just a little touch of detail. And I won't overdo that. Then I am just going to add with my pointy brush a little detail of a highlight on some of these. And I'm really only just popping a light colour here and there on some of them. That's all, because when you stand back and look, it will look like little rocks and stuff like that with highlights on them. You know, I'm not a big fan of sitting for 3 hours painting rocks, as you can probably tell. I just like to add some light colours on, give it a little bit of highlight, have some fun, and then leave it alone. Now what I will do when that's finished, I'm going to take another small brush and take a little bit of this light pinky colour, maybe just go in around some of them and give them a little bit of a swirl. So just to imagine they're wet and there's water kind of running in around them. Just something like that. It doesn't have to be perfect, just, you know, a little something. A little kind of a wiggle of a brush. It just sits them down on the sand, that's all. Okay, I'm not going to be too particular with this. It's just an impression. A lot of this might be covered with the windows in the end anyway. So you don't have to be very particular. And this is even nice as a painting on its own, as it is. Would be quite nice as well. But it's up to you. If you want to carry on and follow me and do the windows, you can. They will be fun. Okay. I'm going to call that finished, my friends. I don't think I need to do any more to it. There's no point in continuing on and making a mess of all this. I might just put a little dark across here and there through that. And maybe a very, very small highlight just through that light section as well. Just a tiny, tiny highlight. Get a bit of light colour. Let me just take a look at this now. Maybe a touch of it there, look. A touch of it here. That'll do fine. And there we go, my friends. I'm calling this part 2 finished. All we have to do is our window frames looking out into the expanse of the sunset. So how was that? I think that turned out very, very well. I'm quite happy with that. And there we are. Let me just move in a bit. That looks quite nice, don't it? Thank you so much for joining me in part 2. I will let this dry for 2 or 3 days because there's a lot of thick paint on this. And then come back and we'll do the window frames with some lovely kind of shadows and the sunlight catching some of the window frame. And then we'll stick my timber frame around the canvas. I'll mount it in the frame and we'll see what it looks like. I hope you approve. Thank you so much for following me along. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't done so, please do. But thank you. A huge thank you to all my patrons, because every little helps. Thank you so much. That helps me continue on with all these little tutorials. All right. I sincerely appreciate your support. Have a lovely day. Happy painting. And I'll be back with part 3 very soon. Don't go anywhere.